everyone, and welcome to my channel. This blanket is the first blanket that's part of my mindful meditation with the Mosaic granny stitch. Today I'm going to teach you how to make the star mosaic blanket, and you're going to need a size 8mm hook or whatever corresponding hook that goes with your yarn of choice. With this blanket, you can use any yarn that you want to use. Today I'm just using a chunky yarn because I have a crap ton of chunky cakes that I need to figure out what I need to do with them. And you're just going to need scissors to cut off your yarn at the end and a needle to sew in your ends. It's a very simple pattern. It is only a 3-row repeat, and then that's it. And so it's super simple, super easy to do, and it's definitely beginner friendly. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to show you the stitches that we are going to do. So for the mosaic stitch, you are going to do a double crochet inside of the chain 1 space. Oops. And then you are going to treble, front post treble around the middle double crochet from the previous round, just like this. And then you are going to double crochet back into that same chain 1 space. And then you are going to chain 1. Now that is a mosaic granny stitch. And when I refer to in the video to make a mosaic granny stitch, this is what I mean. Double crochet into the chain 1 space, then front post treble around the middle double crochet from the previous round, and then a double crochet back into the chain 1 space, and then you're going to chain 1. Now you're also going to know how to do a granny stitch, and that is just placing 3 double crochets inside of the chain 1 space, just like this. And then you will chain 1 unless noted otherwise. So this is a mosaic granny stitch, and then this is a regular granny stitch. And then also in this pattern, I'm going to refer to a stitch called granny cluster stitch and granny corner cluster stitch, sorry. And that is just placing a granny stitch into the chain 2 space, which is 3 double crochets. And then you're going to chain 2. And then you're going to place another granny stitch right back inside of that chain 2 space. And then you will chain 1. And that is a granny corner stitch. So when I refer to the video to make a mosaic granny stitch, this is what I mean. And then when I say make a granny stitch, this is what I mean, 3 double crochets. And then when I say to make a granny cluster stitch, corner cluster stitch, you are going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets, and then a chain 1. And I will explain it in the video as we go, but I just wanted to give you a kind of intro on the stitches that we will be using today. Okay, so let's get started. So to start, you are going to make a slip knot. And if you need help making a slip knot, I will attach a video that I show how to do it slower. And then you are going to chain up 4, or if you like the magic loop, you're more than welcome to do that. We're just going to make a circle. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you are going to slip stitch into that beginning chain back hump to form a circle Oop, I made that kind of tight. There we go. Just like that to form a circle, and then you are going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3, and that counts as your first double crochet, and then you are going to place 2 more double crochets inside of the circle. 1 and 2, and this is the first half of your beginning corner cluster made. Now you are going to chain up 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to put 3 more double crochets right back inside of that same circle. 1, 2, and 3. And then you're going to chain up 2 again. 1, 2. And then you're going to put another set of granny clusters into granny stitches into that same circle. There we go. Now we need to chain 2, 1, 2, and then put our last set of 3 double crochets inside of that same circle. 1, 2, and 3. One, 2, 3, and then now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then you are going to slip stitch right at your beginning chain 3 to finish off this round. Oops. There we go, and our beginning round 1 is complete, and it will look like this. So just like a standard granny square, and don't mind this chain 3, it's going to end up closing up, I promise you. So right now you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 clusters of double crochets, of 3 double crochets, and then you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 chain 2 spaces. Okay, so to start round 2, you are going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you are going to place 2 double crochets into this chain 2 space right in front of your chain 3 that you just created, just like this. So 1, and then 2, and this is your first corner cluster made. So this is your beginning corner cluster. Now you are going to chain 1, and then you are going to put a granny corner cluster stitch inside of each chain 2 space. Now I will show you what a granny cluster stitch is again. So you will double crochet 3 times inside of the chain 2 space. And then you are going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to place 3 more double crochets inside of that same chain 2 space. Like that, and then you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to put another corner cluster into the other chain 2 space. So you're going to do that all the way around until you get back to your beginning 3 double crochets. Okay, so I'm back to the top, and I just need to place my last 3 double crochets into the beginning chain 2 space. So 1, 2, and 3, and then you're going to chain 2, and then you're going to slip stitch into your beginning chain 3 to end this round. just like that. And then this is what round 2 looks like. So now you have, this is your beginning. So you have a chain 1 space. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 chain 1 spaces. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 corner cluster stitches. Okay, so to start off round 3, and every round for whatever pattern you use with this mosaic granny stitch with me, I'm always going to start off with chaining 3 and then placing my 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space right in front of the beginning chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. I mean behind the beginning chain 3. So here's my chain 3, and I'm going to place 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space behind my beginning chain 3. And then I'm going to chain 1. And now we are going to get started with making our points for the star. So in every chain 1 space and every chain 2 space, we are going to be placing granny corner clusters. So to do that, you are going to double crochet 3 times into the chain 1 space. And then you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to place 3 more double crochets back into that chain 1 space. And then you're going to chain 1, and then that completes your granny corner cluster. Now we are at a chain 2 corner cluster, and we're going to put a granny corner cluster into that chain 2 space. So 3 double crochets. Oop, need more yarn. And then chain 2, and then place 3 more double crochets back into that chain 2 space. And then chain 1. Now after every cluster, unless I say otherwise, you will always chain 1. It can be a mosaic granny stitch, it can be a regular granny stitch. After every granny cluster or mosaic granny stitch, you are always going to chain 1. Now here we are at a chain 1 space, and you are going to do another granny corner stitch into this chain 1 space. So I have my 3 double crochets, chain in 2, and then placing 3 more double crochets back into that chain 2 space. Now continue doing this all the way around until you get back to your beginning 3 double crochets. Okay, so I'm back to my beginning 3 double crochets, and so I'm going to place my last 3 into that beginning chain 2 area, and then you are going to chain 2 and then slip stitch into your beginning chain 3, and that is how you're always going to end every round for the rest of this pattern. There you go. And this is what your work should look like for the end of round 3. Okay, so to start round 4, you are going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then place 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space behind your beginning chain 3, and then you're going to chain 1. And then now for this round, you are going to skip every chain 1 space. So every space that's between your points. And then you are going to place granny corners stitches or clusters into your chain 2 spaces. So each point. So like this. So I'm going to skip that chain 1 space, and then I am going to make a granny corner cluster into the next chain 2 space, chain 2, then 3 more double crochets, and then chain 1, and then I have a chain 1 space right here, and we're going to skip that and then place granny corner clusters into that next chain 2 space. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. And then chain 1. So you are going to repeat that around, skipping your chain 1 spaces and then placing your granny corner cluster stitches into your chain 2 spaces. Once again, granny corner cluster stitches, 3 double crochets into the chain 2 space, and then chain 2, then 3 more double crochets into the chain 2 space, and then chain 1. So repeat that around, and then I will meet you back at your beginning 3 double crochets. Okay, so I am back at the top, and I just need to place my 3 double crochets and my chain 2. So here is the chain 1 right in front, and then I am going to place my skip over that chain 1, and then place my 3 double crochets. And then chain 2, and slip stitch into your beginning chain 3. And then that ends round 4. And it's starting to look like a little star now. Okay, so now for round 5, this is where the fun starts. This is when we start doing our front post triples. So to begin, just like always, you are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you are going to place your 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space, and then chain 1. Now here we are at our chain 1 space. Now for this round and this round only, your front post triple, you're going to have to make it very loose, because we are going to be putting a triple or 2 rows down, all the way down here at this stitch right here. So it'll be your 1 second round. Our front post triple is going to go around that middle double crochet of this granny stitch right here. So to start off the mosaic granny stitch, you place 1 double crochet into the chain 1 space, and then you are going to yarn over twice, and then you are going to place your front post triple around this granny cluster stitch right here, well, this granny stitch right here, on your second, it's the second row. So here you go, have a chain 1. This is the chain 1 space you skipped over last round, and then here are the 3 double crochets. So yarn over twice, place your hook behind, and then through that middle double crochet, so a front post triple. And then you are going to yarn over, pull through 2, and you see how I'm kind of stretching that the loops on my hook as I yarn over, and then pull through 2 more, and I kind of like bring it up. I kind of like stretch it up, pull it up, and then you're going to yarn over again, and then pull through those last 2. So it should look like this. And then you are going to yarn over and place a double crochet back into that chain 1 space, and then chain 1. Now your first mosaic granny stitch is made. Now we are at a corner stitch, which is your chain 2 space, and you are going to put a granny corner cluster into that chain 2 space, and that is 3 double crochets. And then chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets back into that same chain 2 space, like this, and then chain 1. Now your granny corner cluster is made. Now here we are back at another chain 1 space, and we are going to put a mosaic granny stitch there. And once again, you are going to put your front post treble into the granny, the 3 double crochets, the middle one of your second round. So, see that? Place a double crochet into that chain 1 space, and then yarn over twice. And then you are going to insert your hook behind that 3rd double crochet, the middle double crochet I mean. Grab your yarn, yarn over, pull a loop up, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then pull your hook up with your loops on your hook, and then yarn over again, pull through 2 more hook loops, then kind of like pull your hook up a little bit to make your loops a little bit longer, and then yarn over again to pull through the last 2. Now your front post treble is complete. Now to finish this off, place a double crochet back into that chain 1 space, and then chain 1. And that's it. It's super easy. It looks complicated, but it's just super easy. Now you are back to your chain 2 space, and you're going to put granny cluster stitches into the chain 2 space, and then your chain 1 spaces, you're going to put a mosaic granny stitch into the chain 1 space with putting your front post treble into around the middle double crochet of the 3 double crochets from your second round. I will meet you back at the top at your beginning 3 double crochets. Okay, so I am almost back to the top, and I just wanted to add that you're going to maybe think like you need to yarn over 3 times when you get to this mosaic front post treble, but do not yarn over 3 times. Just yarn over twice. I know it might seem weird because you're kind of pulling it, but just with the slight tug of lifting, pulling your loop up slightly, that's all the length you need, because it's kind of slightly pulling it in, and it's really defining your kind of like dips so that you can have a defined star. If you yarn over 3 times to do your front post treble or double treble or whatever, it will end up making it kind of like the same height as your points, and you won't really have a defined dip. And that is very important for this pattern. So I am back at the top, and I'm placing my 3 double crochets, and then my chain 2, and then slip stitch to your beginning chain 3, the top of it, to end off round 5. Like that, and this is what your star is starting to look like. I love this pattern so much. I love the star pattern. Now for our next 3 rounds, which are 6, 7, and 8, and that is going to be it. That's how easy this is. So rounds 6, 7, and 8 are going to be your repeat rounds that you're going to keep doing over and over again until you get to your desired size. Okay, so to start round 6, you are going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then place 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space right behind your beginning chain 3, and then chain 1, and then now you are going to place Mosaic granny clusters into all of your chain 1 spaces, and then you are going to place granny corner clusters into your chain 2 spaces. So let's do that. So again, a Mosaic granny cluster is 1 double crochet into that chain 1 space, and then treble, yarn over twice, and then front post treble around the middle double crochet from the previous round cluster, like that, and then you are going to place a double crochet back into that chain 1 space, and then you are going to chain 1, and that is a Mosaic granny cluster. Now I have another chain 1 space right here, and I'm making another one, double crochet into the chain 1, front post treble around the middle double crochet from the previous round, and then double crochet back into that chain 1 space, and then chain up 1. Now I am at a corner, and you are going to do granny corner clusters, and that is placing 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space, and then you are going to chain up 2, 1, 2, and then place 3 more double crochets back into that chain 2 space, and then you are going to chain 1, and then your granny corner cluster is done. Now you're back onto this, now you're back on this side, and then you are going to put Mosaic granny clusters into each of your chain 1 spaces, and then you are going to put granny corner cluster stitches into your chain 2 spaces. So do that, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, I am back to the top, and I just need to finish off this round by placing my last 3 double crochets inside of that chain 2 space of your beginning through 2 double crochets in chain 3. So now I need to chain 2 and then slip stitch to your beginning into the top of your beginning chain 3. And then that ends off your round for round 6, and this is what it should look like. And it's you can tell how cute your star is turning out. So let's start round 7. Okay, so to start round 7, you are going to start as usual by chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and then placing your 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space behind your chain 3. And then you're going to chain 1, and then now you are going to Mosaic granny cluster into your chain 1 spaces, but you are going to skip your middle chain 1, which is your long extended front post treble from the previous round. And I will show you. So right here is going to be a regular Mosaic granny cluster. Double crochet inside of that chain 1 space, front post treble around the previous round middle double crochet, and then double crochet back into that chain 1 space, and then chain up 1. Now here we are in the middle, and you are going to skip this middle chain 1 space, and then you are going to Mosaic granny cluster right here into the next chain 1 space. So basically you are going to be skipping the chain 1 space in this dip. So you're going to be skipping over the dips. So we're going to skip over the dip in that chain 1 space, and then we're going to mosaic granny cluster into the next chain 1 space. Double crochet inside of that chain 1, front post treble around the double crochet of the previous round, then double crochet back into that chain 1 space, and then chain up 1. Now you're going to put a granny corner cluster into your chain 2 spaces by placing 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space, then chaining up 2, then placing 3 more double crochets into that chain 2 space, and then chaining up 1. Now here we are on another side, and then you see here the dip right here. You are going to skip that middle chain 1, and then you are going to mosaic granny cluster into the chain 1 spaces, but don't forget to skip the middle chain 1, and then mosaic granny cluster into the other chain 1 spaces. I will show that one more time, that sounds confusing. So here we are on a chain 1 space, and you're going to mosaic granny cluster in this one. And as you go on and your star starts to build, you're going to be able to see the middle chain 1 space that you're going to have to skip every time on round 7. So chain 1, mosaic granny cluster, I'm at the dip, and then I am going to mosaic granny cluster. I'm skipping the dip, and then I'm going to mosaic granny cluster into the next chain 1 space. And then chain up 1, and then I'm back at a corner, chain 2 corner stitch. So then you put a granny corner cluster into your chain 2 spaces. So continue doing that. Do not forget to skip the dip, the chain 1 dip space all around, and then I will meet you back at the end to finish off round 7. Alright, so I am back at the top, and I am finishing off my end of round. So I'm placing my 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space that you put your beginning chain 1 and 2 double crochets, and then chaining up 2, and then ending the round by slip stitching into the top of your beginning chain 3. And that ends round 7, which is the second round of the 3-round repeat. And then this is what it's starting to look like. And what I like to do from time to time is just kind of pull the points a little bit to kind of stretch it out. So this is what round 7 looks like. So now let's start round 8, and that will be the last round and the last round of the 3-round repeat. Okay, so to begin round 8 and our last round, you are going to chain up 3, just like how we started all of our other rounds. 1, 2, 3, and then putting 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space behind your beginning chain 3, and then chaining 1. So basically making half of your corner cluster. And I like doing it this way because you don't have, you really can't tell when you start working on it where your chain 3 is or where your beginning or end of round is, and I really like how that looks. Okay, so begin to do round 8. You are going to put mosaic granny clusters into all of your chain 1 spaces, and then your middle dip space, chain 1 space, you are going to put a extended front post treble. And it's just the same way that you did it in your, what round was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, like we did in round 4, where you just lifted up your loop just enough to extend your front post treble. So I will show you what I mean. So I'm at a chain 1 space, and we are going to put a regular Mosaic granny cluster into that chain 1 space, double crochet, front post treble from your previous round, then double crochet. Now when you go on with this pattern, like for example your next round, you won't front post double crochet around a previous round double crochet. You are going to double front post treble around the previous round's front post treble. I'm actually going to do a round like that for you after round 8. So then you chain 1 to finish off this cluster, and then in this chain 1 space, your dip space, you are going to do a Mosaic extended granny cluster by placing 1 double crochet into that chain 1 space, and then front post tripling around the previous round's front post treble. So that's your extended treble that you did in round 4. And then once again, to do it, you just front post treble around that front post treble, and then just tug your yarn up a little to extend your loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, tug your yarn up a little, yarn over, pull through 2 more, and then right here, just yarn over and pull through the last 2. And then now here we are at another chain 1 space. Put a Mosaic granny cluster into there. And then chain 1. So that finishes off your Mosaic granny cluster. And now we are at a corner stitch, and you're going to put your granny corner cluster stitches in there by placing 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets, and then chaining up 1. And now we are back. Now we are to another side, so you're going to put Mosaic granny clusters into your chain 1 spaces, and then the chain 1 space, your dip space, you are going to put an extended granny Mosaic granny cluster into the middle chain 1 space, your dip. So finish doing that all the way around, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so I'm back at the top, and I just need to place my last 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space that you place your beginning chain 3 and 2 double crochets. Now I'm chaining up 2, and then I am going to slip stitch into the top of your beginning chain 3 to finish off this round. And then this is the last round of the repeating sequence. So you're going to continue to repeat rounds 6 through 7 until you reach your desired size. And this is what it looks like at the end of round 8. And you can tell that you can see your cute little star. I love this. I think just doing 8 rounds, if you're doing chunky yarn, this will make a perfect size pillow. And I really actually like that a lot. And then all you do is repeat round 6, 7, and 8 until you reach your desired size. And then with the rounds that I was telling you about previously, just in round 8, where you're not always going to double crochet, front post treble around a previous round's double crochet. Sometimes it's going to be the treble. Most of the time it's going to be the treble. So I just want to show you that real quick. So I'm going to chain up 3, and then place my first 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space, and then chain 1. And then now here, so right now I'm going to be doing round 6. So that's the repeat. Since I just got done with round 8, now I go all the way back to round 6. And then this is what I'm placed here is a chain 1 space, so I put a regular Mosaic granny cluster into that chain 1 space. So double crochet into that chain 1 space, front post triple around the previous round, middle double crochet, and then place a double crochet back into that chain 1 space, and then chain up 1. Now here we are to another chain 1 space. In this time, you are not going to front post triple around the previous round's double crochet because it is a front post triple there. So you are going to make a Mosaic granny cluster in to your chain 1 space, and then placing 1 double crochet into that chain 1 space. Now you're going to front post triple around the previous round's front post triple, and then double crocheting back into that chain 1 space, and then chain up 1. Then there we are. So that is what it's going to look like when you don't front post triple around a round's previous double crochet. So this one was around this front post triple was around a previous round double crochet, and this front post triple is around the previous round front post triple. So once again, this is what it looks like. Can't wait to see everyone's pieces and their blankets or whatever you decide to make out of this pattern. I love it. I think this one would be great if you do like kind of a snowflake theme for like with Christmas colors. But I am actually going to continue with this colorway because I'm really liking how it's turning out. So tag me on all the whatever social media that you are on. I love to see everyone's work, and I will have all of the descriptions about the Mosaic granny cluster and what they mean in the description box below, and I will have the written pattern on my website, but that won't be until like I want to say November-ish. So for now I would just put the descriptions of each stitch into the description box underneath this video. I can't wait to see what you guys make with this. Bye!